Obviously, we saw Man City do their treble last night. You know, a sensational season for them, a brilliant team. There's no debate in that. But of course, straight away, you see the surpass Fergie, eclipse Man United. Your titles are gone. We saw Gooners. Gooners have had a weird one sort of almost 360 moment in certain respects. They brought up, the Invincibles is still the only unique title in the UK. People then clap back against it and they say, why are you all obsessed with Arsenal? Well, because you brought it up. We didn't know he was talking about the Invincibles. But they did their treble yesterday. Where does it rank? But we know it's brilliant. But where does it rank for you in terms of this team, Pep, in terms of single season achievements, or maybe the greatest team of all time? Like, where do you rank this City team, and what do you think makes them so good?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're up there, right? They as with anything, whenever there's a question which doesn't have a definitive answer, it's always going to be subjective. Like this is one of those questions none of us could ever prove it. There's no defining stat or answer. For me, they're up there. They've done it. 2 teams in English football history have done a treble. Only 2, right? They're both up there. Both very different football teams, very different types of managers. But essentially, they both got over the line. They both managed to come over whatever was going on in their seasons that year and win all 3 competitions. Now, look, I love the Man City style of play. So I lean towards that. But again, football wasn't that when Fergie was at Man United. Football wasn't that. It was a 4-4-2. There wasn't all of these players playing like, back then, there was no one having a back three with John Stones creeping into a midfield to sit with Roy Keane and letting people. There was none of that. It was 4-4-2, right? And then a few teams creeped in to start playing wing backs. So very different. But look, both overcame a lot to get there. City this year, and this is where we can talk about it because I remember this era. I'm of that age. City were written off this year. Haaland's made them a worse player. You remember all of that? They'll never do anything. Blah, blah, blah. They're terrible. They've lost it. Pep's been there too long. Their players are getting too old. They've not got They've overcome all that, overcome the 8-point gap, gone on to win the league, won the FA Cup, won the Champions League against a very tough Inter Milan side. United at the time, backs against the wall. 10 men, if I'm not wrong, against Arsenal in the FA Cup semi-final.
Yep.
You went down to 10 men, and then Giggsy scored that. Anyone that wants to talk about Mane v Giggs, go and watch that Ryan Giggs goal against Arsenal in the FA Cup semi-final. You had, again, memory a tiny bit hazy. I might get the players wrong. I think Roy Keane missed the semi because was it the semi he missed because he got the bookings against Juventus?
So Roy Keane got sent off in the semi-final second leg against Arsenal. And he got booked in the semi-final, so he missed the final of the Champions League.
Right, there we go. Okay, so, and you had to tinker then being 1-0 down until injury time and coming back. For me, I don't think it's what was better. I don't know how anyone judges that. It is a phenomenal achievement, and the fact that only 2 clubs have done it tells you that it's a phenomenal achievement. So I don't know if that's a politician's answer, but for me, it's not. How do you judge it?
Answer. I think it's right. Firstly, on the Invincible thing, so I did a bit of research today because I had a lot of people in my DMs. The Invincibles, this and I just thought, firstly, if you're a Champions League virgin, stay out of the conversation to a degree. Like in terms of bantering Man United yesterday, if you're a Champions League virgin and you are yet to pop your cherry, this isn't the conversation for you.
We've made a final. Does that count?
No, you were a bit like Simon. No, not Simon. What was his name? Briefcase in you didn't quite get the job done, right?
Yeah.
I then did some research because I saw Piers Morgan, a lot of people having a dig at Man United, and even to a degree City by saying 2 teams have done the treble, 1 team's gone invincible. The Invincibles is a rarer achievement. Therefore, it's a harder and better achievement.
They're not in the conversation.
I did some research. I did some research on it. So only 8 teams in the history of European football spanning over 130 years only 8 teams have done trebles, and it's been done 10 times because Bayern Munich and Barcelona have done it twice.
Yep.
In that same time period in Europe, 117 clubs have had invincible seasons. Now, if you just look at the significant leagues, some of them are still significant. The La Ligas, the Serie A's, the Premier Leagues. And then you look at leagues and teams that back in the day, for instance, during the 80s and 90s, Steaua Bucharest were an amazing team. Their league was a difficult league to be in. If you look at significant leagues where it's been done 25 times in that same period. So the treble's been done, the treble's been done just 10 times, where significant invincible seasons have been done 25 times. But invincibles in general have been done 117 times. So it is not more unique. And look, people say it's flawed. They say things like, but no, it's not a 38 game season. Well, the Champions League has changed over the last 60, 70 years. It used to be straight knockouts. So we've seen, how often have we seen teams scrape through a group stage? And then Liverpool did it when they won the Champions League and then go on to win the damn thing. If that was knockouts from the beginning, Liverpool, when they last won the Champions League, would have gone out in the first round of games because they lost a couple. They weren't quite on it. Remember when Napoli battered them up a couple of seasons, years ago? So the point I'm making is formats change. Yes, there was less games in leagues maybe 50 years ago, but there was less teams in it. So it's the same difference. It wasn't, if you only have, for me, I just look at it along the lines of there's no flaw to the argument. Football has changed exponentially.
Can we bring this back to its rawest form?
Yeah, go on.
Its rawest form. We can sit and talk about invincibles all day long, but the be all and end all is the other two teams won a treble. Right? We can talk all day long.
Mate, you're right. Yes. The record is you're invincible with one trophy. It's a bit like 100 points and one Premier League, but the record of the treble is 3 trophies in the same season, 3 major trophies at the same time. That in itself is just better in every single way, shape, and form.
Listen, what Arsenal did was magnificent. Going invincible is nothing to be sneezed at. That's a magnificent achievement. But sometimes you can get a magnificent achievement which isn't quite on par with other achievements. And the treble for me trumps everything because you've gone. The only thing that's going to trump a treble, that's not a great sentence to say. The only thing that's going to trump that is doing the quad, right? But to do the treble completely obliterates being invincible because the way I look at it is this. In a decade, are people still going to remember that Man City did a treble in 2023? Yes. Right? They will. They'll remember that they did a treble. Like the same way everyone has talked about Man United's treble from 99. Everyone knows what year did United do the treble? 99. However, in 10 years' time, are people still going to remember that Man City lost to Brentford at home and away in the league in the year they won the treble? Is anyone going to care? Is anyone going to care that they didn't go unbeaten and that they lost those 2 games? Is anyone going to care that Spurs beat them 1-0? No? Do they care? No. Do you think they were in that change room last night going, oh, disappointing though, because we didn't quite beat Spurs or Brentford? No, they've won the treble. For me, there's only 2 teams that enter this conversation, and it is Man City and Man United. The Invincibles were great 11, great team, very good to watch, I hate to say.
Yes, but I want to be very, very clear. I think the Invincibles is a tremendous achievement. It should never be played down. It shouldn't be laughed at. It shouldn't be disrespected. It's phenomenal. And I would love to win a Premier League and be invincible. 110%. I've also seen the argument, Fergie said it's the greatest ever achievement. Yeah. And Wenger said the treble is, and he'd swap with it. Both managers just showing brilliant decorum and respect. Pep Guardiola wants to be crowned by the time he retires the greatest manager of all time. But he has 3 times now in his life said, I'm nowhere near it. It's Fergie. Because he's got decorum and class. And that is how you behave in those circumstances. Fergie will pick if someone said to Fergie, who's the greatest manager of all time, including yourself, he won't pick himself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
A handful of people. Cristiano Ronaldo would pick himself as the greatest ever of all time.
Yeah, watch Messi. When Messi's asked the question, do you know what? Funny enough, I was actually watching a TikTok reel earlier, and it was interviewers asking Lionel Messi, are you the best player in the world now that you've won the World Cup? Does it settle the debate that you're the greatest of all time? And at no point, because he's a humble man, at no point does Messi turn around and go, yeah, I'm the best. Messi says, I'm just so honoured and pleased that people talk about me with those players in that conversation, right?
Mm.
This is the thing. Look, I'm not knocking the Invincibles. I think it's phenomenal to do that.
Yeah.
But there's levels.
I
There's levels to it.
I totally agree. Someone said, why are we discussing this? Well, because it's been the discourse of the day amongst football fans. One of the reasons why Arsenal shouldn't have even brought themselves into it is because of what you've just said there in the comment section there, Ozzy. This is City's night. And City, even bringing Man United into it, which is what the media did, takes away from City's achievement. Let those debates happen. People have a rule. I think it's an English thing. I don't really care where you originate from in the UK. The English have got a problem when it comes to seasoning and marinating their food because we want to do everything really quickly and rush it. It's like plain chicken. Let things cook for a few days, then have these conversations, and then have these debates. But everybody wants to force them upon everybody. What City have done, I hate saying it, but it's a tremendous achievement. I know they have the overhanging charges against them, but let's see the wood for the trees when they arrive, what happens in court. It might be 2 or 3 years still until that's even heard. So we just can't focus on that every single minute and until it happens. And for me, they've just been absolutely impeccable. The problem that you have is that everybody straight away brings in United this and Arsenal this and what about this and what about the other. And I must have had about 20 DMs today going, Terry, do you really think United's treble was better? And I'm like, but I'm biased, but of course I think Man United's treble is better. Why? Well, because we had to play Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Newcastle in their FA Cup run, and go back and do your research about how good those teams were back then. We had Bayern Munich and Barcelona in our group stage in the Champions League back then, okay? And then had to play a world-class Inter and a world-class Juve in the 90s when Italian football was the biggest and best league in the world. Juve were three times Champions League finalists up until that run, beat them both through great adversity, and then beat Bayern Munich in the final. That run alone, for me, makes it better because of what we had to go through to get there. Now, I just want to say, but for me, I understand that a City fan isn't going to agree because at the end of the day, like you said earlier, Sav, it's what's the criteria? Is it based on best style of football? Is it based on
There's no answer?
Is it? Yeah, exactly. Everybody's going to bend and twist the criteria to make sure their favorite comes out on top. So for me, this is why I've been saying it all day. I'm annoyed that another team has done it because I love it being unique to my club. But do you know what? I don't feel like my treble's gone. I don't feel
of course
like
it hasn't.
but that's the narrative that's being pushed.
Right.
The treble's gone. It's disappeared.
Let's put it this way, Terry.
And this is the answer. I want to say one thing final before I go back to you, Seb. When people say, yeah, but Arsenal's invincible, 38 games versus club teams that played 30 or less. Yeah, but Man United won the Champions League in the treble year when you had teams the quality of Barcelona and Bayern Munich in your group stages. The point is, formats change. That's why you look at the achievement as opposed to the rules. I mean, should we turn around and rate everything from the 70s and 60s and the 50s higher because goalkeepers didn't wear gloves, because the pass back? I mean, they had no subs in those days. You had a player get injured. You went down to 10 men. How often do players go off injured in football? Every week. So for me, you have to look at the achievement, and you're never going to get a consensus on what determines the agenda. So it becomes a nonsensical debate, in my opinion.
Mate, listen, I mean, first of all, I've got people in the chat saying, Savvy, you caused this. I didn't cause this. I was asked a question, who do I think's better? And if you actually look, I didn't say either was better, did I? I said they're both the same. Now, by the way, some of the comments I'm seeing it are summed up, Terry, football tribalism, right? Because in no way did I diminish Arsenal's invincibles. In no way, shape or form. Arsenal's invincibles were incredible, but you can't put them on the same page as the teams that done a treble, because the treble, if this was poker, a treble outweighs being invincible and winning less trophies. That's just the way football works. But in true 2023 football fan style, Terry, it is, oh my God, someone said something about my club that didn't say they were absolutely amazing, the best thing ever. I must attack, right? Now, this is the thing. Not everything needs to be amazing or shit. There's a lot in the middle, right? There's a lot in the middle. The same with any debates. Tribalism doesn't allow people to use common sense. Yeah? We can sit here all day. We could talk about the 99 treble, the 23 treble. all of those players and the managers that won those trebles won't give a monkeys. They do not care. They done something that nobody ever does in this country, right? Fans will, of course, have their own opinion. This team played better football. This team played harder opponents. It doesn't matter. A treble is a treble, yeah? And an invincible season, unless it ends with a treble, doesn't match up. But no one's knocking that. It's
No,
absolute
I
madness.